Hey guys, welcome back to this channel, where we review stories that beautiful people like yourselves post on the internet. And we got 3 stories for you today, so buckle up. Story 1. Would I be the a-hole if I told my husband I'm disappointed with the jewelry he ordered me? Original post. My husband, 34 male, and my 31 female wedding anniversary was this week, but we delayed celebrating until this weekend. We do traditional gifts for anniversaries, and this year is flowers and fruit. He's not great with the gifts and asked for ideas last month, and I sent him a link to an Etsy shop that makes quote-unquote birth flower jewelry, and I told him I'd like something with our son's birth flower. I also let him know he could just get me flowers or anything else and that will be fine as well. For his gift, I picked up chocolate-covered strawberries, wine, because grapes, and went to a fancy cheese shop to get some fruit-infused cheese, meat, and so forth to make a really nice charcuterie spread for tonight. I'm going to create a quote-unquote picnic in our living room, and I think it's going to be really cute. I also got him a card and wrote a heartfelt message. Just for reference, I assume that he had figured my gift out before our anniversary. So, imagine my surprise when I opened a prime box and found a jewelry box. I didn't open it, but it was labeled birth flower necklace, so it was obvious. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not sure if I'm being unfair and could use some perspective. If he ordered the gift via Prime, that means that he didn't order it until after the actual day of our anniversary had passed. The box was labeled with my birth flower, not my son's, which is not what I wanted. The box and labeling looks very cheap, and looking on Amazon, I think he ordered a low quality piece. Think Chinese Amazon front, less than $20. When we were younger, I would wear jewelry like this, and it would always fall apart, color my skin, and or tarnish quickly. I'm a bit upset. I spent a significant amount of consideration and money on his gift, and he totally flubbed mine in a way that specifically seems very uncaring. He's going to be giving me the gift tonight, so I have about 4 hours to figure out how I'm going to respond. I don't want to ruin our plans with a fight, but I would like to gently tell him that I would rather he orders something that I will actually wear. Or should I just thank him, not say anything, and just not wear the gift? Am I being entitled? ESH. I'm usually an "it's the thought that counts" person. However, he asked, you have him the link to a specific shop with specific things you wanted. He likely waited too long, not realizing or paying attention to the fact Etsy orders take a while usually. Panicked and went on Amazon. He needs to step up. Now for why you suck too, you didn't get him a gift. Yes, you're preparing a nice evening, but it is for both of you. It's not a gift for him. It's like you going out to eat and saying that was your anniversary gift to him since you paid the bill. So technically you got him a card. Does it? If you have Amazon Prime, they automatically upgrade you to a free shipping on everything. I get stuff same or next day even when I don't need it for a week. Also, a lot of people reuse Prime boxes. It could be from the Etsy store you mentioned, just in a Prime box. Unlikely but possible. Assuming that he didn't buy it till just before, just because it came in a Prime box, is a terrible idea. 2. If you messed up the birth flower, that's on him. I don't know how much that means to you. Only you can decide that. 3. Again, it seems like you are making negative assumptions on very little data here. Chinese front stores do everything they can to look like legitimate, decent quality brands. Have you even seen the jewelry? Or just the packaging? You would be the a-hole if you jump to conclusions based on very limited information and then get upset at your husband over it. And you would really be the a-hole if you ruin your anniversary over an imagined slide based on bad information. I would say this ain't so much of a you're the a-hole or he's the a-hole, but more of a when should you communicate to him that you didn't really like what happened. Based on the other replies you made, it seems it's the amount of time and thought that bugged you. My boyfriend has this issue where he will have so many ideas, but will second guess himself on gifts over and over, convinced I won't like it, and order last minute because of it. Maybe that's what's happened. I would say have the conversation the day after he gives it to you, and admit you saw it early and wanted to know if there was a reason it seemed to look like it was a rush job. Then you can explain you aren't mad or accusing him of anything. You simply want to know because if it was for a reason, you want to understand and find a way to help. If it's not for a reason, just explain how it slightly upset you that it looked and felt like he spent no time or thought on it, that you aren't mad or accusing him, but that you want to talk about what you can both do in the future to combat this. We had our anniversary date last night and it was really lovely. Just to recap, every year we follow the traditional wedding gift themes, so this year was fruit and flowers. Despite many commenters' beliefs that I have been trapped by my husband and unfairly insist that he must buy me things and selected a yearly theme to make it harder for him, he was the one who originally suggested following the traditional gift theme. I love that we do it. I think it's a nice tradition, and every year we can look back at the last themes and reminisce on what we did, gifted, and so forth. Based on some of the feedback saying that my gift was actually for both of us, I didn't set out the chocolate-covered strawberries with the rest of the food and wine. I gave them to him separately and made sure to let him know that they were just for him and he didn't need to share. He did insist on me having 2 so that I could try each flavor, and then ate the remaining 10 all himself, so safe to say it was a hit. The charcuterie spread was excessive and delicious. He asked me to explain the various items and was an especially big fan of the huckleberry goat cheese spread with prosciutto. Some commenters asked about my husband's love language. It's physical touch and quality time. The nice thing about the picnic was that we could cuddle while we ate, and when the food and wine was gone, we quote-unquote celebrated like mummies and daddies do. A surprising amount of people wanted to make sure that that was a part of the gift as well. Y'all are weird. A few commenters also pointed out that I didn't know if the necklace was all that he had done, and they were right. In addition to the necklace, he had also bought flowers and my favorite wine. Well, yeah, grapes are a fruit, so we both had the same idea. I didn't say anything about the necklace until this morning. I told him I loved that he remembered I wanted a birth flower gift, but would it be okay if I exchanged it for one with our son's flower instead? He responded, quote, "Don't worry about it. It was really cheap. I just remembered this week that you mentioned it, so I figured I should get something like that. If you want something else, let's just order it." End quote. I should have known better than to spend time stressed about the conversation. He's a very laid-back guy. So yeah, a great night. I'll just add a little gentle reminder that these posts don't paint the full picture of a person, a relationship, or a life. My husband and I are very happy. We have an amazing life together, and he's a great partner to me and father to our son. I'm not some evil bridezilla, as someone commented, and he's not an abusive a-hole, but thanks to the person who contacted Reddit cares. We decided last night we are ready to start planning baby number 2, so I'm excited to continue building our life together. Be well, Reddit. As a person who is pretty terrible at giving gifts, I'm glad you had an open and honest conversation and it went the way that you wanted. My husband usually does a spin on traditional gifts for his anniversary. Paper. He got me tickets to a show I wanted to see whatever anniversary is pottery. He got me a Harry Potter something. I try to be creative. He's very hard to buy for. There just isn't anything that he ever wants. So we usually end up with me getting gifts, and I'll usually get him a video game and time set aside where I take the kids and he can play, or something along those lines, and then eating at his favorite places where we wouldn't usually go with the kids. Gotta love a happy ending. I'm glad you communicated. Hopefully next time you feel like you might be an ass for bringing something up, trust yourself. Don't overthink it, and remember that he's proven that you're a team. You and him versus the problem. You're not on your own, and for things like this, you don't need the outside opinion of random people on Reddit. I'm so glad things worked out for you. A lot of the time, well-meaning Redditors who have seen a lot of posts from people in unhealthy relationships who don't realize it, which is good if the assumptions ring true, but pretty annoying when it isn't, and it really is just a minor issue. Happy anniversary. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband why his uncle wasn't invited to our wedding? I got married a few weeks ago. We had 13 guests, meaning that there was 15 of us in total. The rules allow for 20 people, but when we were planning, we could only have 15. Invitations were limited to just family and wedding party. In addition to my husband's immediate family, he has 2 aunts and an uncle who were on the list, and his mom confirmed she would tell them about the wedding. It was our 3rd date, so we didn't have time to do invites. His mom kept saying that she invited her brother, the uncle, but he never responded. About a week before the wedding, Scotland changed lockdown rules, which meant we could have 20 rather than 15. Mother-in-law responded to the news by saying she'll now invite her brother. We found it odd when she already invited him. As she's in her mid-70s, my husband became really concerned that perhaps there's something wrong with her and she's becoming forgetful. I told him I think she may have never invited him because she wanted to invite a cousin in his place, based on her saying how much she wanted cousin there. Husband says she wouldn't do that and he's really concerned. Last weekend, we stayed at their house whilst they were away. I was looking for a pen and saw a piece of paper with my name on it. It also had my sister-in-law's husband's name on it. Naturally, I read it. Background: I'm a WOC and my husband is white. Sister-in-law's husband, Pete, is against our marriage because of that and made it clear he would boycott the wedding. We didn't care, as long as sister-in-law came. The note said that we should make the effort with Pete and reached out to invite him personally to the wedding, even though she knows how we feel and how he makes me feel. It also said the uncle can be invited in case Pete accepts. Mother-in-law did actually tell my husband we should invite Pete to the wedding, with the exact same points as was noted on the paper. It seems that mother-in-law did not invite the uncle and never did, so that there was a space for Pete at our wedding. When it was clear we would have more than 15 so that there was room for Pete and uncle, she invited uncle. For your information, we never reached out to Pete. Issue is, my husband is still worried about his mom and thinks she wouldn't cock up something as big as inviting her only brother to her only son's wedding. So, something must be wrong with her memory. I haven't told him I saw the note because, 1. Even though I was genuinely looking for a pen, reading the note was snooping, and 2. I feel strongly that we should never badmouth in-laws to each other, and tell him the truth would go into that category. I discussed this with a friend and she called me a massive ass for letting my husband worry about his mom when the reality is she was plotting. And I'm disloyal to my husband by not telling him the truth, especially when we just got married. However, I actually think I'm protecting him by not telling him what his mom did. Am I the a-hole for not telling him? You're the a-hole if you don't tell him. Switch it around. Would you rather think your mother is mentally deteriorating or just plotting? Also, are you okay with a lie in your marriage? Would you be okay if he was lying to you? As far as bad-mouthing in-laws, you wouldn't be bad-mouthing, just telling the truth. Bad-mouthing is, your mother is a liar and was up to no good and I knew it all along. A simple stating of the facts will bring him some annoyance, but ultimately peace of mind. I know you're trying to keep the peace and keep a good relationship with his family by keeping quiet, but you're the a-hole if you keep this from your husband. You didn't mean to snoop and find the note. Anyone would read a piece of paper with their name on it. Pete's reason for opposing the marriage is abhorrent, and your husband deserves to know the truth because 1. He needs to know how to set the appropriate boundaries with his mother concerning Pete's place, or lack thereof in your lives, and 2. He shouldn't have to worry about his mom having a cognitive issue where there is none. His mom was way over the line, and he should know the full truth about the situation, even if the way you found out was less than ideal. I'll be honest, using the quote-unquote "I'm doing it to protect him" line automatically makes you the a-hole in my book. You're the a-hole. Frickin' use some communication in your marriage. That's what a relationship is about. With no communication, how do you expect your marriage to last? You're causing your new husband to go through the painful emotions of thinking that there is something seriously wrong with his mother. Like, why would you do that to him? Some of you asked for an update and whether I told my husband the truth. I took all your comments on board and realized you're right. I would be the ass. I didn't want to cause drama, but I can easily see this being a slippery slope. So, I mentioned it to my husband a few days after this post. took the approach of saying, "So I know you're worried. I was looking for a pen," and so forth. Basically, I was completely honest. His initial reaction was silence, and then he said, "But Mom wouldn't lie to me." I said, "I know, I'm just telling you what I saw so you don't worry about it." And then he again said, "But my mom wouldn't lie to me." I changed the topic. That was the honest extent of our conversation, which was almost about 3 weeks ago. It hasn't come up again and I've not mentioned it. I did immediately regret saying anything, but realized that at least I've mentioned it, so if anything like that happens again, he can see there's a history or pattern. My husband is extremely naive and trusting, as is his dad, but his mom is someone who knows what she's doing, whilst acting all cheery and ditzy. I really struggle with her failure to support me on the issues concerning my husband's brother-in-law, but a friend of mine made a good point to me yesterday. Whilst I'm married to my husband, I will always be an outsider to the family, and they just want to see their daughter / my husband's sister happy and not cut in the middle between her brother and a racist husband, which my gut says she doesn't completely disagree with. She's told my husband he has his reason for his views. Unfortunately, them doing that is at my expense and, to an extent, my husband's. My husband has my back when it comes to his brother-in-law, but he's also keen to not cause too much of a fuss, and I struggle with this slightly. I'm just grateful we don't live anywhere near each other and see them once every few months. Otherwise, I would struggle with always putting on a happy face with them when I'm hurt over their lack of support about the things brother-in-law has said about me. The only one who I think does want to support me and express his outrage is my father-in-law, but my mother-in-law always talks over him when he starts saying it's not acceptable. Of course you are not the a-hole, but if your husband doesn't learn to back you up in the firmest ways possible, his family will continue to make you the scapegoat and ignore you. Everyone in his family, including your husband, is playing the servant to your sister-in-law's husband. Probably her too, because they are the most threatening. I think your husband needs to take a firm stance now in defense of you, for the good of your relationship. He can't remain so passive. Resentment will grow if he doesn't. By the way, I can't tell you who'll ultimately attend your wedding, the husband of your sister-in-law or your husband's uncle. Reply: in the end, neither. We refused to reach out to sister-in-law's husband directly to invite him, and he wouldn't have come anyway. In any event, he was invited by virtue of being married to sister-in-law, but after he refused to allow their 2-year-old son to come and be a page boy, it was pretty clear that he wasn't coming, which I was pleased with. By the time the law changed in Scotland, which meant we could have more guests at our reception, it was just a week before the wedding, and that's when my mother-in-law finally called uncle, her brother, to tell him about the wedding. By that point, he had made plans to be away and couldn't make it. I had already messaged him separately about the wedding, and when I said, "see you there," he didn't say he hadn't been invited yet. In hindsight, we should have just done it ourselves rather than leaving it to mother-in-law, and that's where we went wrong. You make a point. He's a difficult character, and they're going to be more supportive of the daughter who has a difficult husband that allegedly makes her unhappy than their son with the non-white wife who is happily married but dealing with racism from sister-in-law's husband. As soon as his sister's husband's feelings came to light at the start of that year, he made it clear to his sister and his family that we would never step anywhere near him ever again, even if it meant we didn't see the family at Christmas and so forth. If he's there, we're not there. I really appreciated that, but it still feels like his parents are trying to unite at all without appreciating how unacceptable sister-in-law's husband is. The issue is my husband wants me to be close to his sister, and he knows that makes me uncomfortable because of who her husband is, and that's where things become tricky. He thinks it's not his sister's fault that her husband has turned out that way. I feel she tolerates it, and it's hard for me to be friends with someone who tolerates racism. As I said, living away from them is our savior. Oh dear, I'm happy you came clean, but these are all things that needed to be dealt with long before you walked down the aisle. Saying, "thank God for distance," is just putting a band-aid on the issue while letting the infection spread. This is absolutely something you are going to have to face head-on at some point. The only decision here is if you're willing to find out now that your husband doesn't really have your back now or later on down the line when you've invested way more time and energy into this marriage. I do not understand why anyone would willingly be a part of this family. A manipulative mother-in-law, a simple and naive grown-ass husband and son, a racist sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and a father-in-law without a fortified backbone. Seems like a miserable situation. Also, your husband basically called you a liar about the note. This man will never be 100% on your side. That's a terrible way to start a marriage. Guys, if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to be an a-hole to the like button, make sure to steal their towel when they're showering after the gym. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for skipping New Year's Eve at my child-free sister's? Last week, I hosted Christmas for my family. I, 33 male, have 2 years with my wife. Every year it's at my sister's, parents, or my house, and it rotates every year. One of us hosts Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. In the last year, my sister, who is vocally child-free, got a dog. I love my stepsister, but we are very much opposites. When I had my kid, it changed our relationship a bit. She tolerates, her words, my son. She has never watched him. I've also never asked. My son is present at all family functions. This annoys my sister. My sister has turned into your classic dog mom. World revolves around the dog type. I do not own dogs, and I really don't want to be around them. I don't want them in my house. Well, my sister wanted to bring her dog to Christmas, and I said no. It's well trained and overall okay for a dog. I just didn't want it at my house or even my yard. She complied and left it alone, but was not happy about it and let me know that several times. The day before New Year's Eve, she told me the kids weren't welcome at her house. I was taken aback by this and asked why. She just said alcohol would be present. We all drink and family and friends also come to this party. And just said it wouldn't be appropriate for a 2-year-old to be present. My wife and I had planned to only stay till 10 anyway, and then would go home because of our kid. We'd reconsidered and opted to not go at all, and respected my sister's wishes by keeping the kid at home. I let her know a half hour before the party started. Wife and I treated it like any other night. We didn't even stay up till midnight. By 11, noticed missed calls from her and didn't answer. Fell asleep while texts started coming in. Call me an a-hole. Call me a dog hater. Saying it was rude I didn't come to the party. But it was BS that she got my kid a Christmas present, but didn't get her dog anything. The list went on. She was clearly drunk. I tried to call her. She didn't answer and got a text. I'm not answering, a-hole. So, am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. People saying you should have given more notice don't seem to be noticing that she gave you only 1 day's notice that your kid wasn't welcome there. If you wanted to go, it seems unlikely you would have been able to find a sitter in that time. And given that she clearly made this decision out of petty spite, I don't think you owed her any more notice than you gave. Dogs and children are not the same. You can leave a dog at home safely. Do that with a kid, and you go to jail for child endangerment. Now the a-hole. A dog isn't a human. Why would you give it a present? I think she does have a point about bringing a toddler to a boozy New Year's Eve party. But you're not an a-hole for deciding to stay home and giving her a heads up half an hour beforehand. So, earlier today, I finally talked to my sister. In the past few days, it had been drama-free, with some today. A few things to address. To be honest, I was pissed at my sister's rule. We had looked for a babysitter in the time we were informed no kids to when we said we weren't coming. All our usual babysitters were going to the party, like our parents and aunts, and no one outside of that usual crew were available, hence the last minute no. For those asking, when I told her no to the dog coming over on Christmas, I told her the day before, because that is when she asked. This is her first year with the dog, so I had no idea she had the expectation she would bring it. Apparently, my mom told her to ask me first instead of just bringing it. She lives 10 minutes away anyway. She's been vocal about not liking kids since she was a late teenager. She is child-free by choice, as far as I know. So I got the drunken text because family members were disappointed my kid wasn't there, especially the ones that don't see my son that often. My sister told them that she was trying to have no kids at the party. They were surprised by that since my sister has never hosted a party where the kids of the family were not invited. One other family member that has kids ended up having one stay home with her kid. So my sister did communicate this to more than just me. Seems like others weren't happy with her decision. We talked today and she's still mad about Christmas. Told me she wants me to accept her dog as family. I told her it can be family to you, but it isn't going to be family to me. It can be your everything, but it will never be to me. I told her my kid is more important than her dog. I'm not a dog person and it will never be, and I just don't want it at my house. Apparently the attention my kid gets from my family, including my mom, bothers her. It was clear from the beginning she wasn't going to be an involved onto my son, which makes me hurt and sad. But I didn't realize there was this much jealousy. I'm just going to give her space for a while, then reach out. Your sister needs therapy. You won't be able to reason with her on this. Not the a-hole. This comparison between a living human who has the capacity to understand they are not well liked versus a dog who licks its own butt multiple times a day is wild. You're right to take some space. I would anticipate the eventual epiphany. It's not so much jealousy of your child, but she's jealous of you. Either way, space for you is good, but long term you might really want to think about how or if your child interacts with your sister. Your sister will put the well-being of her dog as the priority over your child. She's already made it clear that's her hill. ESH. I'm child-free, but I love my siblings. I have pets. I don't consider them my kids, but my parents still throw some pet toys in my stocking at Christmas. My siblings' dogs are welcome at my parents at Christmas. You both sound like brats and need to grow the F up, to be honest. Get the goddamn dog a squeaky toy and stop expecting people to invite your kid to everything. Just because you decided to procreate doesn't make you better than anybody else. Guys, that was it for today's stories. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel to keep listening to these stories. Thank you again, guys, for all of your support. We will be seeing you in the next one.